The following is a special presentation of the PDF Sports Network.
You know I'm right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in sports, media, entertainment, entrepreneurship, and so much more. Nick Durst here along with Joe Calabrese and Joe. It's called You Know I'm Right. So, of course, we play, predict, and win a lot when we come to our stuff here. But two gentlemen joining us here today who have a lot in common with us.
They do. And they're with SimWin Sports. So we'll get to talk about that. The world's premier digital sports league, which provides daily fantasy players and sports bettors the ability to watch, play, predict, and collect 24/7, 365. Led by a former Madden NFL executive, producer, and former CMO of DraftKings, SimWin Sports leverages bleeding-edge football, basketball, and soccer simulations to drive virtual competitions. Hall of Fame celebrity team owners Magic Johnson, Jerry Rice, Marshall Faulk, Tracy McGrady, Sugar Ray Leonard, Allen Iverson, LaMelo Ball, and more lead the way as fans train and manage their virtual athletes, agents, and trainers to build wealth while worldwide communities earn through fantasy sports and virtual sports betting platforms. So the two gentlemen who are joining us today, they are part of this. They get to describe it a little more to us. This is a little more my forte, Nick, not necessarily you, but you're interested
I work in fantasy.
Yeah, sure. But they are here. They're both in different places, so get to pick their brain about this a lot more. So we're going to finally introduce them. Tom Goedde and no, not that one. David Ortiz. Tom, David, welcome to You Know I'm Right. Very, very nice to have you guys. Since you're both in different places, we're going to try to have to coordinate, going back and forth, one to each of you. But how are you guys doing today?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having us.
Really appreciate the opportunity.
So we're going to talk about a lot here, but we'll start off the top because Joe talked about it here. How did you guys end up coming up with the idea for SimWin Sports, and then how did you turn it in to the official company that it is today?
Sure. We've been in video games now, and I don't want to tell all Tom's origin story, but I've been in video games about 30 years now. Started at Atari Midway, working on Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey. So a long time ago, both Coin Up and Nintendo 64 and PlayStation and all that, and some other games there too. Was at Microsoft, this first game designer there, working on a game called NFL Fever. First games on Xbox Live. So then from there, EA Sports and Madden NFL and NFL head coach. And, a lot of stuff on fantasy and other stops, creative director, North American Sports at Sony, a lot of sports games. And, Tom and I, in between all this kind of work we've been doing, we built a fantasy sports company together, focused on in-play fantasy sports, right? Real-time sports prediction. And this is prior to him going to DraftKings. And just over the years, we've built a lot of sports games and built, marketed, et cetera, and a lot of fantasy stuff. And really, ourselves, other people on the team like Josh Lumen, who's a longtime, producer and designer at EA as well. We just always had all these ideas, man, of ways to try to take all the stuff that we would, honestly, dude, we're just a couple of sports games nerds at the end of the day. Like we're just keep trying to, so many other people in the industry that build cool stuff. They're just trying to make stuff that they think people are going to like, and also they want to play themselves. And then how can you geek out further and further and get, deeper and deeper into that experience in that whole. And so a lot of this stuff is just things we just saw as like that natural evolution of how people would want to spend their time around a digital game experience. There's the whole kind of marketing pitch of it, of, how we fill the holes and what's needed in the market. And we can speak to that too, especially on the fantasy side. We know people are super passionate about fantasy sport. We know they want to do it all the time if they can, and they should be able to, because any other pastime you have right now in the world, just about, that's entertainment based, is digital and it's bingeable, meaning you can do it whenever you want for as long as you want. So, it's Hulu, Netflix, movies, music, video games, online poker, slots, you name it. It's any time you want. Well, fantasy sports betting, that kind of stuff is dependent on human athletes running around, catching, kicking, throwing a ball. And if that's not happening, then there's no live action. No live action, you can't do those things. And so, there's no reason why fantasy sports fans need to be left outside of that experience of being able to just be entertained when you want to. And so this is a part of that too. It's how can we make people who have this super passionate pastime be able to engage any time of day, any time of year?
So I wanted to ask you guys how you got into the gaming world, and we'll start with what you guys were interested in when you were younger, where you two went to school, and ultimately how did you two land in the industry that you guys worked in for a long time?
Tom, you want to go first? I just talked a lot, dude.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Seattle, inner city Seattle kid. Went to O'Day High School there, which is a big kind of Irish Christian Brothers, but an athlete school, athlete factory. Been around sports my whole life, and always told people I was going to work in sports. Delusionally as a kid, as most do, you think you're going to be on the field. But that became pretty obvious early on that wasn't going to happen. So started working towards the business side of things. Went to a small NAIA school in Montana called Carroll College. Studied speech communication theory, which is kind of like the research side of communication, and then public relations, so press relations. Came out, I got my start at a small company called Humongous Entertainment. Started as a QA person. Humongous is kind of best known for the cult classics, backyard sports, backyard baseball, football, soccer. I see smiles. You guys are in the right age range to affect your youth. Just a great start there. As I said, I started in QA, but I kind of, when I walked in the door there, we were like 20 or 22 people, and kind of got the opportunity to have experience in really everything from sales to PR to product management, the product management marketing side of marketing, which is kind of where my real wheelhouse is. Licensing, international expansion, all those kinds of things that, everybody does everything in a startup. So great experience there. Moved on to Wizards of the Coast. I was there during the Pokemon trading card game boom, when we went from $175 million a year revenue to 750 in a single year. Learned a ton there. Just, that hockey stick growth is just crazy. You just hold on and do everything you can to stay on top of it. But, we also have Magic the Gathering. We had MLB Showdown, which is a great tabletop baseball card game. NFL Showdown, WCW wrestling license there. We signed the first ever license with Joe Rawlings for Harry Potter. So we were actually the team that very first visualized Harry Potter characters and environments. Incredible experience there. And then I found David at EA Sports. So David and I went to EA Sports, was there for 13 years, the last 7 of which I managed marketing across all sports globally. I was the VP of product, brand, and athlete marketing. So that means I managed all the athlete relationships across the country, or my team did, and was responsible for the brand there as well. So I had a lot of cool experiences. Launching Madden and those things as well. But I launched the very first NFL Street, which was an incredible experience. Lots of experience with NASCAR and Tiger Woods PGA Tour and NHL and NCAA football. So many great games. As a sports gamer growing up, that's Mecca for me, right? Just an incredible experience. And David managed the development team of Madden for over half a decade, and we became good friends down there. And then when he moved on, I stayed there for quite a while. And then we rejoined when I left EA, started the fantasy company that David mentioned. And then when we exited that, I moved on to DraftKings. I was the chief marketing officer at DraftKings, so launched all their first sports books, was on a team that took them public. And then I retired during the pandemic to do board work. This company is one of the companies I was on the board of. I've been on the board since its inception. And then about a year and a half ago, came off the bench to get it up and launched and going again. So this is David and I like to say it's our third tour of duty together, but we work really well together and have a lot of fun too.
David, anything to add there?
Sure. No, I mean, Tom covered it pretty well. Same thing, very similar, man. I was got in the games business while I was still in school, going to school, playing ball, bounced around a few different schools. I'm from the Bay Area, so I spent some time at a place called Chabot College in Hayward, and spent 2 years there. And then after that, went on to Azusa Pacific, and then ended up at San Jose State, and all the while playing football. And I got an internship at Atari, similar to Tom in testing, making like $4.75 an hour. Like it was, you were just happy to be there. Honestly, going to work every day and be like, they're going to pay me to, touch video games all day. It was pretty cool. But pretty quickly we didn't, we had a lot of like fighting games and shooters and things like that. We didn't have, we had like one sports game, which was Gretzky. And we just didn't have a lot of folks who were passionate about sports. So I was surrounded the producers, hounded them, everything until I got myself really nested in that team. And then I haven't really looked back since. Like I said, I spent a lot of time there, and then over at Microsoft doing the same thing as a designer, and then over at EA for a long time, and then creative director North American Sports at Sony, and over at Warner Brothers for a time being, and got my opportunity really in starting out in QA and kind of working my way up from there, and just being willing to do anything to help a product, and stay long hours, and give feedback, and try to find ways to make games better because you cared about them, right? As opposed to you thought, because you didn't understand, at least I didn't at that age, understand the money or anything about it. It was just these games need to be better, and so how can I help these guys make these games better? And that's really, it was just a passion for that, and that's why you literally just moved in and got a pillow, and you fell asleep at work, and you woke up and you were happy to do it because because they were paying you by the hour. No, I'm kidding. Because it was just fun. Because it was fun, man. And then in terms of us getting here, once I spent some time overseas in the UAE, and in that time, I was working at a company where they were pitching us concepts all the time, and from different sectors. And that made me realize just how much opportunity there was in different areas where, in growth and entrepreneurship. And so we built the fantasy sport company, and was able to, convince Tom to come partner up with me. And that was fun. And then after that, just continue to look at ways like what does the market need, and what can we deliver with passion, and also, fill a hole in the market. And that's how SimWin's been born.
So let's briefly talk about EA Sports. It's in the game. So you guys are there during the mecca, the height, I would say, of EA Sports with all the different brands. What would you each say was the coolest thing you got to do while working on those brands? And also, what would you say for the people who are really not in the know on this, how long would it take to make a game? So let's just say, for example, Madden, it's released in August. Are they immediately working on the next one? Walk us through that. We'll go with Tom first, and then David.
Well, I'll give the very high overview because I'm the marketing guy. The dev team is different, but dev for annual cycle titles, like almost all sports games are, typically is about 18 months. So there's actually an advanced team that is working, rolling off the current project and starting the next project before they complete development. But David can go deeper into that. So, for me, by the end of the time, I started with NASCAR and NFL Street were my first launches, then added NCAA, Tiger, and then eventually the Canadian studio too that had NHL, FIFA, and all those other titles up there, UFC, et cetera. Man, I got a career of incredible experiences for sure. One of the highlights, I guess, was the negotiation with Augusta National Golf Club to bring them into the Tiger Woods PGA Tour game. That was a 6-year negotiation that my bosses told me to quit 3 or 4 times. And I was like, nah, this is going to be a crown jewel, man. Like, we got to do this. I don't know if you guys are golf gamers, but, golf games have been around for years and years and years. And Augusta just never smelled, anywhere close to it. So like the entire community, which is a deep, devoted community, was like, it'll never happen. Every time the conversation came up in forums or whatever, everybody just shuts the conversation down immediately. So we all knew that that was going to be an incredible experience. I started that negotiation with Hootie Johnson, and then we finished with Fred Ridley. Just an incredible experience, just kind of being consistent in how we deliver things and staying in touch and telling them how we're going to help them grow the game of golf through the history of their club. And amazingly, over 6 years with the development and everything else, we were able to keep it secret. So we literally announced and launched like 2 weeks later, and which is very, very unusual for video games. Tons of pressure from above to announce, 6 months in advance and really build pre-sales and all those things. But it was like one of the greatest sneak attacks in video game history to really shock the market, and just sales exploded. So that was one of my favorites, but I've had like hundreds of incredible experiences. David?
Yeah, I've had a couple, man, and not all of them at EA. I had some crazy fun stuff happen to me at Microsoft. I think for me, a lot of this fun stuff though was just some surreal things, like to sit down and you're building a game that you played in high school and college, and and you got your buddies who are still diehard calling you, complaining or being happy about some stuff, complaining about other stuff. What started to be really interesting for me though was when you start getting phone calls in the middle of the afternoon from current athletes, and you're like, who is this? Oh, this is, I'm not going to drop any names, but you guys are habitual abusers of the phone line, calling and saying I'm not fast enough, or guys accosting you at the Pro Bowl and they're like, dude, you need to make me faster, my hands aren't good enough. Like that would just crack me up. I'm like, these guys are at the Pro Bowl, and this is like their pinnacle, and these guys are are worried about their speed in Madden, and that's what they're focused on. And they're at the Pro Bowl, right? Yeah. Like I had one athlete again, I'll say it was Ocho Cinco. We were at a Pro Bowl in Hawaii, and we were going and we're getting the head scan for all the players so we could get the most accurate scans we can. So Pro Bowl's a chance for us to get all the stars. And so, I'm sitting there, tough job for, day after day, grabbing these athletes as they're coming and going to practice and saying, I need you to come in and get your head scan. And depending on if they had a meeting or something like that or interview, I'd be able to pull them in. And so Chad wanted to play the new version of Madden. I had it with me. So he's like, D, come on, let's play. I'm like, bro, I'm here to work. Like you are too, but like, I got to go. And he was like, if I get all these guys to come in here, will you be free? I was like, yeah. So he literally went, grabbed like everybody else I needed, pulled them in so I could get all their head scans so we could go back to playing. So I thought that was hilarious, man. But probably one of the coolest things, surreal things for me was we did a pre-launch event in LA at a bar, and we have different athletes coming in and things like that. It's nighttime scene, and they come and grab me. A guy named Sandy Sandoval worked with Tom and I for years. Says, hey, I need you to teach the champ how to play Madden. And I'm like, okay. So I walk over and it's, it sits me down. I look over and it's like dark. I look over and it's like Mike Tyson tattoo on the side of his face. And we're sitting here, and I'm teaching Mike how to play Madden, man. It was that, when you're growing up and you see guys, even 12 years old, watching them box, and now you're teaching them how to play the video game. You're fortunate enough to work on that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff was a lot of fun. When we took over Times Square, that was a really cool one too. And Ozzy Osbourne performed on the top of the building, crazy stuff like that. It never got old, man.
That's awesome stuff for both of you, and unbelievable stories. And who would have thought? That's just crazy stuff. So what do you guys think the sales numbers are going to look like for the highly anticipated return of NCAA football in 2024? It's very rare you see a game go away for a decade and then it comes back. Either of you could take this. What do you think expectation wise that would be, as far as just the buzz, and how you think your former employer is going to be able to handle that?
Oh, they're going to kill it. They're going to kill it.
I could speak personally. I love playing that game. So like when you work on something all the time, like a Madden, you go home and you want to play at the same time. It does still, part of your brain still feel like you're at work. but you still love sports games. And, so I'd play a lot of NCAA. And I would go upstairs and bug those dudes, Jeff Lure and those guys, like, dude, what about this? What about that? But they had it well under control. But it was a game I'd play for fun because it wasn't really working. It was like a chance to take a break. So I still play 2014 when I have a chance. Like, it's been a bit because we're a little busy right now, but love that game. I don't know, Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, no, they're gonna kill it. Saying we still bust out 14 every once in a while. My son's a huge Notre Dame fan, so am I. So he's got to get his Irish in. So we dust it off on occasion, but they're gonna kill it, man. I'm still close with those teams out there. There's so many diehard college football fans in that building, and frankly, I was on the team that had to shut it down for the NIL purposes. And it broke our hearts. I was personally preferred the gameplay style of NCAA to Madden. NCAA was a little looser, freer. I loved to run the option. Was super fun in that game, and they've been chomping at the bit, as they say, to make this game for a real long time. So, they'll work through the legal issues, but Cam Weber, newly named president of EA Sports, great friend of mine, and he's super passionate. He's a big Husky fan as well. Grew up in BC, going to Husky football camps and all that stuff, and those guys know what they're doing around it. So, we're excited for them. I'm excited to be able to play college football again, the future is bright for all of us.
So when I was younger, I used to play the absolute crap out of the NHL games, but there was one game in particular. It's a cult classic. The last EA point before we move on, I absolutely have to bring it up because I played this game modded until 2011, 2012 was MVP Baseball 2005. It is the gold standard when it comes to baseball games. I remember once EA lost the rights and they started coming out with, 2K and the show, and eventually those games have got good, but they were never as good as MVP Baseball. So that's my story. And again, I used to be a part of like the modded community online, and we used to put the new stadiums in the game. We used to have updated rosters. They would literally fully mod out the game. So quickly, guys, do you remember that time losing the baseball stuff and team stopping working on the games, and how popular MVP Baseball remained even after EA lost the rights?
Well, when I was at Sony, we had MLB The Show, and I was a dedicated team. So when I left EA for a bit, I went to Sony. We had MLB The Show, amazing team of guys working on that. They're still crushing it. And then came back to EA and stayed there for a long time. So I'm a little bit partial to MLB The Show, just knowing those guys, Cutliff and those guys that work on it and do an amazing job. But people used to we had a bunch of former college baseball players at our office down in Florida, and they would sit there and geek out at lunchtime over MVP base. They loved that game. They absolutely loved that game. So I know you were part of a community of folks that were super, super passionate about it, but I never worked on that bad boy. So maybe Tom's got an opinion.
Yeah, no, I didn't work on baseball specifically there, but we definitely know the story because we were on the Madden team that took the exclusive. We get a lot of shit from the community about how exclusives are bad and all that stuff. That was an NFL deal, I will say, for the first time on record. The NFL decided they wanted to treat video game category not like a license anymore, and more like one of their big sponsors, like a beer sponsor or whatever, which means, it's going to be over $100 million to do. So they knew they needed to do it exclusively. So, it was either 2K or us, and we're not losing Madden. So we got it, but EA Sports has taken the brunt of that for a long, long time. With people just assuming that we bought the market out. So we tipped off that, or I should say, the NFL tipped off that whole run of exclusivity where people were getting shut off here, there, and everywhere. Luckily for me, EA retained that exclusivity through most of the sports, with the exception of basketball and baseball. So, it was a great game. There's no doubt. Made up in Canada, led by a bunch of really, really hardcore baseball fans. It was a spectacular game. But that was just kind of the time in the industry that everything went exclusive overnight. Literally within a year, every single sport went one way or some level of exclusivity. So it was an interesting and certainly stressful time. But it was just another transition. And, when you work in video games, when you work in technology, like you're never not in transition. We watch other businesses, the music business and movie business and entertainment in general, really struggle with these big transitions, like going digital or the rise of mobile gaming, all those types of transitions. These are kind of old hat to us. We've been through so many transitions with new consoles coming out, social gaming, online gaming, mobile gaming, as I said earlier, and now Web3 gaming, where the community actually can participate in ownership and actually make money while they, beat out their passions through video gaming. And so, this is one of literally probably a dozen major transitions that Dave and I have seen in our careers. And when you ride the wave a lot, you kind of get to be a pretty good surfer and get to understand how these transitions go, that they're stressful and they, upend entire industries overnight. But, it kind of gets to become old hat. And when you've been around a long time, you kind of can see the patterns and understand what's going to come next. And that's really where the formation of SimWin Sports comes, because this project is really a culmination of all of our careers, like all of our old athlete connections, David's experience building sports games, legendary sports games, my experience marketing them, my experience in real money gaming, and David has an experience as well running Phil Ivey Poker. And so, this is all of our 30 years, 60 years of experience coming together in a single effort. And we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing those stories, Tom. David, MLB The Show is now the industry standard for baseball games, and it's good for me to learn that you were a significant part of that. So kudos to you there.
No, I want to be clear. So I was creative director of sports for that, but I can't take credit for that, man. The guys that built that thing, honestly, they built that thing without me. I just got a cool title and got a chance to have it as one more credit. So I've done enough cool stuff in this industry. I never need to take credit for stuff I didn't do. So
sure. Well, we play it here in the apartment, so my roommates love the game.
They got an amazing. Those guys are about as passionate as I've ever seen for what they build. So it's good dudes.
So Tom mentioned this before. You guys have had multiple stops together. So I wanted to ask about finding and working together at iPro, and more importantly, how the working relationship between you two has evolved through the years.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think it's been more of a friendship initially than anything else. I met Tom before he was married, and I was already married when I moved out there. Tom was still somewhat a bachelor. He's at the pool parties and all that stuff in Florida. And he was just like the welcome committee, like if you moved in and you didn't know folks, like, oh, well, Tom's going to have a party at some point. So, you get a chance to kind of meet everybody. And it was just like a social atmosphere. So Tom's just like, he's like Ellis Island, right? When you get to EA and Tiburon, like he just welcome everybody in, man. So that's, the context I got to know Tom from. But then from there, man, over the years, I'm all about it, energy, right? I'm a positive energy dude. Tom just always had good energy, always, successful. And everybody in the, EA, the marketing team down there was just really cool. And so everybody down there was a good guy. They always had all the free stuff too. Like you'd go down there and like, we'd be like busting our butt. You go down and have like 9 pairs of unique EA tennis shoes and all kinds of crazy stuff. You're like, you guys get this crap. So I'm like, all right, if I want any of this cool swag, I got to get to the marketing dude. So that was a part of it, right? They always had junk on there, like just stupid stuff. Like anyway, but it just over the years, just getting to know Tom. I like the way he worked, like his professionalism, like the way he approached things, like the way he interacted with the product team. Always had good ideas, contributed, and was easy to work with. So that was, I think, the start of it. When I went to, we had a, good natural working career at EA because of that. When I went to start building out what became iPro, and we were at a point where we needed to figure out how we were going to go about, really pushing marketing. I think Tom had just left EA and he was doing his RV tour or something like that, or was on a vacation, one of the two. Yeah, either just left or he was doing his RV tour. And I just kept bugging him because we were up in Seattle. I'm like, dude, you come back to Seattle and, that kind of thing, and try something different, try fantasy sport. And fortunately, I was able to somehow convince him to join us. And it was great. Again, it was everything, I expected, working with them, really easy to do. Us, and then another guy named Sean Bailey, who had worked with us at EA for a long time as well, came over. And and Sean's over at Dapper now. But we just had it was just a good time, man. Just good energy. It's a space. It stands out of market. And then he ended up going. We sold the business. He ended up going over to DraftKings, and so obviously picked up a ton of experience there in that role. And when the opportunity came to build out SimWin, and I'm like, well, this is fantasy sports and gaming. Who else makes better sense to try to partner with on this thing than Tom? So, we're doing it again.
So, Tom, what was it like launching the first digital sports book in the U.S. with DraftKings, and what did you learn from that you've been able to bring along with you for SimWin Sports?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting times, right? Like when we exited iPro, I wasn't going to sit on the sidelines. PASPA had just been struck down, which is the federal law prohibiting legal sports books in states outside of Nevada. I knew it was an inflection point in the history of sports for the U.S. And I wasn't going to sit on the sidelines. So I wanted to be a part of that. And, like I tell people, or used to tell people all the time, like that was the end of prohibition and we're Budweiser. Like, what a time to be alive, man. It's fun. Like, we're grinding, we're working really hard, and it's an interesting industry because obviously fantasy sports and sports betting are heavily regulated. I had enough training from my iPro days to understand the ins and outs of it, but this is at a different level because it is live sports book, and you're dealing with both technologists as well as like old school casino people, sportsbook people. So it's an interesting development to the career. So, what I was excited about there, and the reason I joined iPro, as David mentioned, is because it was familiar enough to exactly what I had been doing, but a whole new industry, right? So like, I know I can be successful in this space because it's marketing like EA Sports was, like Humongous was, like Wizard was, marketing sports products, but here this is a whole different type of betting, a whole different type of gaming. And so, super fun. And, I learned a lot from those guys. They're a really, really heavily driven team. One of the biggest things I think I learned is that in the gaming world, analysts are the most important person in the building, right? In video games, it's all about the creatives, the technologists. And, there's talented people in technology at DraftKings as well, but analysts are the ones that are really, really get it done because the understanding of, the cost of customer acquisition and, your LTVs and how much you're spending to keep them around and, managing a VIP list of whales, all those kinds of things are new and interesting and different to that industry. So it was certainly a fun time to be around, and just like I said, it's a historic moment in sports for the U.S. So it was special to be a part of that.
So Tom, follow up here. What does the future hold for all of these sports betting companies and these apps? Because I personally have DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, BetMGM, Caesars, and WinBet all downloaded on my phone, right? That's 6 different books that they're not legal in every state. It varies a little bit, even though the actual legalization of it in each state is, the process of it is different. So what do you think is the future? Do you think some companies will end up consolidating? Do you think some companies will just eventually go away? Or, what do you think that's going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, the industry is definitely going to consolidate. It's already started pretty heavily. There's just too much money on the line. It's been too successful. The really interesting inflection point that I'm waiting for in sports betting is when the state governments, once their tax revenue starts to plateau, and they start to look around and be like, okay, how can we get more out of this? And they put pressure on the federal government to go against go shut down the illegal sports books that are sitting offshore but servicing the U.S. That's going to be a really interesting thing because there's going to be a whole nother spike in usership just as they squeeze out the illegal sites. The other thing, obviously, we're here for a reason to talk about SimWin, and I think SimWin is really the future of fantasy sports and sports betting because what we do is we make everything that's great about fantasy and sports betting available on demand 24/7, 365. So right now, there is live NFL content only available 4% of annual hours. And with SimWin, it's available 100% of the time. Not just tweaking your team and doing your research, but actually having money on a live game at any time. So we're kicking off with American football. We're really on the absolute cusp of launching our first paid games in the next week or so here. So that's for American football, but we're going to follow with soccer, basketball, cricket, hockey, baseball, et cetera, et cetera. So this is kind of a new version of EA Sports as a adult-only real money gaming product, and just lots and lots of potential here. So we're really excited to make what's great about sports available 24/7.
David, I want to get back to you. Talk about finding Emortal Sports and Ace and King Productions.
Yeah, I mean, I think with both of those things, it was just trying to find ways to push gaming experiences, right? And I've always liked to find ways to I'm really a progression nerd, player progression nerd, and want to get as immersed as I possibly can. And Emortal was all about trying to build something that allowed us to, and a lot of the things some of the things we're doing at SimWin or Emortal was a precursor to, but trying to find ways to build things that really force you to be immersed in the experience or allow you to be immersed in an experience. The whole brief concept of Emortal was you have a single kind of action character and you try to take that character across as many games as possible, be it a shooter, action adventure game, etc. And what could your ultimate high score be using that character across multiple games? So like imagine if you were Sylvester Stallone going across movies, but you took real damage, basically. That was the purpose of the business, just challenging time to accomplish it. But made a good run at it. And then Ace and King was all about doing things that leverage IP and movie and go from there, and try to take, what people are starting to figure out now, but I think we were on too early, take an IP and then take it across sports. I'm sorry, not sports, but movies and shows and games across the board, leverage an IP and engage an audience. And so, yeah, that's what those two were about.
Awesome
I
stuff.
think one of the most interesting things, though, about David's career and those companies in particular is like David creates this little family of talent that he then takes along with him all over the place. So with Ace and King, there's probably 4 or 5 guys in our ecosystem right now that, through Hollywood connections, technologists, et cetera, that are involved in SimWin as team owners or working on the dev team or whatever. So he's constantly calling me. I swear to God, we go about every couple of weeks, and he's like, "Hey, I'm getting into this business over here. Do you want to invest with me? Do you want to consult with him?" He just builds this little family that moves from the next project, the next good idea to the next good idea. So it's been pretty fun to be on the ride.
Definitely. I mean, I'm passionate about innovation for sure, and building relationships, really. At the end of the day, we just want to execute really cool stuff, though. And when we get to SimWin and when we're building this thing for a minute now, it's just about trying to build something of really good quality. Rather than just rush something out, we want to build something special, build something people can be proud of, and that people are going to want to stay immersed in and engaged in. And so that's what we've been trying to build here.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can't tell the full story about SimWin Sports without us doing what we just did, looking back on your whole careers and all the relationships you fostered and all the experiences you made. And that's how you build a good talent pool. You work with people you know and can trust, and that's how you keep building things. And who knows, maybe Joe and I will end up working for you guys one day and you can just continue to build. But with SimWin Sports, I'm curious, how did you get these big name celebrities and former athletes to come in to be owners?
Sure. So it's just been a process, man. Actually, the first, and it really does come down to just treating people properly, and presenting an opportunity that people can understand and see. It's not, this isn't a foreign concept to any of these guys. It's digital, But at the same time, Magic Johnson, Mike Singletary, Jerry Rice, these guys, David Levy, these guys understand what it means to run a sports franchise. They understand what it means to be a part of it. They get sports. So this isn't like a big stretch where we're saying, hey, do this crazy Web3 thing that has nothing to do with anything you've ever heard of or understand. It's like, this is football. This is basketball. This is soccer. Like, folks get that. Number one. Number two, when you have other great people around you, guys we have on our dev team, guys like Tom, guys like Andre Johnson, our EVP of Biz Dev, we've got a lot of credibility, guys like Josh Lumen. When you look at that and you're someone like that, you look at it and go, yeah, I do, all of these guys are competitive people, guys and gals are competitive people. They're all innovators themselves, and they want to be a part of something that shows promise and that they can wrap their heads around. It's in their wheelhouse. And so we're just fortunate through relationships. I mean, I coach high school football, so I'm not even sure how Coach Singletary and I, and in fact, I think we met through, I think I met Coach Singletary over the years through something we were doing around faith. And, met Coach, and we hit it off, and it was like, hey, we're going to do this thing I love. And Mike Singletary was the first coach in the league. And then from there, I think it was Tracy McGrady. And Tracy was like, hey, I want to call Jerry Rice. And, and then the next thing we're talking to LaMelo, and then, we're talking to Magic, and it just really snowballed. And then it's Jen Welter, and it's, and it's all these people coming on board, excited. And then it's Penny, and, passionate about this, competitive folks, and Emmanuel Acho, fun people who are passionate, people who are competitive. And then the company step in, authentic branch groups like, yeah, we want to compete. And we'll bring Allen Iverson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Shane Mosley, like all these guys and gals. And so we're just fortunate, man, honestly, have a really good network. We've been around sports and entertainment for a long, long time. Living out here in LA doesn't hurt, in terms of access to people. But really, at the end of the day, it just comes down to, we treat people properly. We've got some good relationships, and, it's an exciting opportunity. So it's not tough to sell something that's good.
Joe, just like at WrestleMania with SimWin, all the stars are out. Everyone wants to be involved in the biggest thing in sports entertainment, and it's really exciting to hear all those people who are interested, and we're getting excited here just listen to you guys speak about it. Last question from me here, and we'll start with Tom, but I want to get an answer from both of you. What would you say in your life or your career is your right moment? What I mean by that is a time or place where you wanted to pursue something, you asked somebody for advice, that person said, that's a terrible idea, don't do that. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. Ultimately, you will see why it is that I'm right.
A couple moments come to mind. I already told my Augusta story. I was told to shut that down several times. David, you look like you got one on the top of your tongue.
I listen. For me, it's just, I'm just kind of predisposed, man, to taking a shot. So I don't let any real dust gather, naysayers or anything like that. So, if people come with the energy of, you can't do this or it can't be done, I'm like, okay, I don't give it much energy at all, literally. And that would be my advice to anybody, right? Is like, if people aren't, unless it's someone like you just trust so thoroughly, right? Do not let anyone get in your brain and tell you can't accomplish something. I wouldn't have, I started in this business at $475 an hour, right? And so, and I've been in this business now for 30 years. So you can do literally anything you want to do if you're just like, I'm gonna do it. So I mean, that would be my biggest advice to anybody is just believe in yourself, period. And believe in the opportunity and to just work. You'll find out. I mean, even if you believe in yourself and you work, doesn't guarantee you're always going to be successful, but you will make progress and you will learn from something, and then it'll make the next thing much more possible. And you'll be better positioned to succeed, but you just keep chipping away at success. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, there's a million stories and there's none that are worth telling. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take a pass on that one.
The Augusta story was a good story, though. That's kind of Our signature question here is the you know I'm right moment, kind of like the I gotcha, like I told you so kind of thing. But you guys working here for SimWin Sports and continuing to get this thing off the ground and out there, Nick and I, we wish you two the best of luck moving forward. This was a great interview, great insight from both you guys, great stories, kind of walking us through your careers and overall, really the overall timeline, I think, here of the history of sports gaming in general and how it's evolved through the years. And I want to call back to something at the top, a certain video game, Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey. One of, if not the first video games I actually ever played at 4 or 5 years old. It was the game that my cousins played the most when I was that young, that kid age. And then I started playing NHL in 99 and 2000. But I remember having the old N64. I had Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey. I had all those games. And I remember when I was younger, it was like one of my favorite games. So now I got to know that you were a part of that process. So, but yeah, like Nick and I, we wish you guys the best of luck moving forward. This is something that, you know, we're going to keep a close eye on. And understandably, I don't know if we can help you when it comes to the technical side of things, but we'll do everything in our power to make sure that, you know, we help spread the word and put in the good word for you guys. And if there's anything else you need, you're more than happy to reach out to us. But what we do here is we always give our guests the last word. So Tom, Dave, if there's anything else you guys would like to share or personally promote for yourselves, by all means, go ahead. Again, we wish you two the best of luck moving forward. Thanks again for doing this with us.
Right on, man. I'll say that's awesome. Thank you for telling me that. I mean, like when you're sitting there and you're making games and it's late and you're tired and you're like trying to figure out something or fix something, you hope that someone's going to one day tell you, I played that game and I had fun with it. Right. So that's awesome, man. Thank you for telling me that. Other than that, man, I would just say, you know, come check us out at SimWinSports.com. Right now we're in our live beta. Check it out, you know, get used to the experience. And then, you know, we're going to be flipping the bid here shortly for people to be able to play in a contest where they can win cash. So definitely check us out. Tom?
Yeah, that's it. SimWinSports.com. Join our Discord if you want to learn more, interact more with us, but jump in and compete. Get used to the controls, and you know, cash games are coming soon.
So Nick, man, I got to ask you, I'm thinking about this the whole call, right? So who do people tell you look like?
Well, I get two of them, Daniel Tosh, and I've also gotten Rob Gronkowski in the face with the buzz head.
Slim Gronkowski is what I was thinking this whole time. I'm like, what is going on?
Wow.
Yeah, Slim Gronkowski. All right, that's your new nickname for me.
Funny enough, we worked with Tosh's brother at EA Sports. That's hilarious. Now that you mentioned it, I see that too.
I see that too. Yeah. But
those are the two I've gotten. Would love to meet both of them. I actually worked for Rob during his last season with the Bucks, doing his social media video edits, but always dealt with his brother Chris. But yeah, if you look it up, Joe, in the headshots of Rob Gronkowski buzzed head, and I smile like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right on, man. You could step in and do all this stuff. That's why you're doing a social. Right on, man.
There you go. If you guys ever need a stand-in, you want to promote Daniel Tosh or Rob Gronkowski.
There we go.
There we go. Ready to go.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's going to do it here for this episode of You Know I'm Right. So for our very special guests from SimWin Sports, Tom Goedde and David Ortiz, and my co-host Joe Calabrese, I'm Nick Durst, and this has been You Know I'm Right.